All right, thanks everybody for joining. This is the architecture review meeting for fulfillment, and today is October 9th, 2024. And Michael has brought us the topic for today. So thank you for suggesting it, Michael. You want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me share my screen. So yeah, I put together this issue. This is something that's been on my mind for a while, and yeah, basically the point of this is it's mainly a discussion at this point. Um, of implementing some strategies, perhaps even some patterns for us to follow around handling technical debt. I've tried to list out a few examples that I've collected, but there's definitely a few more. Also, some stuff in there that I've fallen into. But yeah, I've tried to put it into a couple of topics. Already there was a little bit of discussion around tools and strategies. This is not the main point of this topic, is to like try to bring forth more tools unless they actually serve a purpose. But it's generally about managing technical debt and a few pitfalls for this. I did just want to, at this point, open up the discussion generally. This is stuff that I've collected, and I don't expect us to get to any solutions at this point. The point of this is also to bring some awareness on this, and hopefully, my hope is that will end up with a couple of strategies that we may be able to document somewhere to kind of guide us when we do code reviews, when we work on a day-to-day basis in implementing features. And I realized that a lot of this we fall into because of the push that we have on certain features, and also some of our processes in terms of pushing technical debt to be a separate step that we then never come around to completing. I also talk about this in a specific point about integrating it, technical debt as pay down as part of the newly defined minimal valuable change instead of minimal viable change, or what it was before. And trying to be more deliberate about when we decide to actually commit to certain patterns or technical debt, and when we decide to not. But some of it, I believe, we can be avoided with our current processes, and it's more about actually being aware of these. I've pinged front-end engineers, and I've also posted in the general engineering channel, but feel free to participate in the issue. But yeah, after that, I kind of just wanted to leave the floor open for people to talk about this. Is this insane? Should we not do this? Is another way of going about this. Is have others seen similar problems in our code base?
I think it all goes down to the thing that you mentioned about having established guidelines around handling the technical debt. But the thing is, what exactly we want or we would like to achieve. I mean, what we want to put into these guidelines.
Yeah, so I've tried to call out a couple of examples that I've seen. This is by no means a definitive guide, and there's definitely more that we can pick up on. I've leaned on front end because there's a few examples that I think are easy pickings, and my hope is that this will not stop here. That we will continue to contribute to it. Maybe even some of it can be contributed back to a general GitLab guide, but I think it's a good start to start with CustomersDot because this is particular patterns that I've seen emerge in CustomersDot.
I think there are a lot of valuable topics that you've, created and use different threads on the issue. And I think it feels like there might be different layers to it. Like some of these are things that we should have as a baseline for when we're reviewing code. But then it also feels like some of these might, are going to be too late. If we're waiting to catch them in code review, then we've wasted, time implementing something that has to be, refactored. So I'm wondering about ways that we can um, get this in the forefront of people's mind when they're developing a feature up front. And something that James and I were discussing recently in our one-on-one was, pair programming is the topic that we brought up, a number of times. And I think probably different people have, varying opinions about whether they like to do it. I think a lot of people do like to do it, and it's just difficult um, given our setup, with us being remote and not being in the same time zones and things like that. But certainly, I think we could do more of it, even though it is maybe not as easy as if we were all in the same office together. So that's, one strategy to doing it. It's not the only one. This meeting here is another area where we can, dive deeper into any of these topics. Because this is an architecture meeting, and we can talk about any of these topics like breaking, favoring new components and um, avoiding creating copies of various components. So like, these things we can go deeper in here, and maybe that would help engineers avoid going down these paths before it reaches code review. There's just some thoughts I had. And, Michael, you brought this to the table here. That's perfect. So that will help. But I think as far as spreading the word, we can do more of discussing these in deeper, each topic deeper here. Possibly there's other ways to do it.
Yeah, I feel like I think we talked about that many times in the past. That yeah, we know that we have technical debt, and that's a thing that every project has. But the thing is, when it comes to dealing with tech debt, we need a starting point. Like, yeah, we know we have a technical debt, we have to deal with it, we have to prevent it, and so on and so on. But there is no starting point. There is like, there are no numbers at all, and there is no such a metric like code health in GitLab. So, yeah, we have a code climate, but it's like barns about duplicated code, and that's it. When in reality, we should have more metrics around the code that we work on, like even some basic stuff like, hey, these are places that we're changing a lot for the past like 3 months, or for the past 3 milestones. If we change these places quite a lot, probably we need to do something with these places. So, I mean, if we want to get this process started, we need like a starting point, we need to set our goal, and we need metrics to ensure that we are on the right track. towards our end goal.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. To add in some metrics, I will definitely take a look at that. I I think some of my thinking around this is that we will never be rid of technical debt. It will always reside in our code base, and I think it's a utopia to think that we'll ever be rid of it. So this for me is more to try to implement strategies that are helpful in thinking about technical debt. Some of it is diving into just the thinking of isolating an island of bad code. That doesn't mean that this bad code will ever be removed, but at least you're calling it out and you've isolated it, making sure that the default way of doing it is not this area. And I see a lot of places where we end up having multiple paths. We have one path of a legacy way of doing it, and then we implement a new way of doing it, and we just have all of these different paths, multiple paths. Like even within the purchase experience, I found that we had like I think 18, maybe 20 different ways of purchasing, like implemented ways of doing this, like similar tasks. And to me, that's not helpful. And that's to me is what I kind of reacted on in terms of, okay, we need a way to think about these things and to be aware of when we create something that could be used as the default way of going about it. So if you see that there's 3 ways of purchasing something, like your instinctive or intuitive way of going about it might be to just copy one of the others and then do it again, instead of like thinking about what can we actually consolidate, what is reusable parts here, how can we work towards that, how can we isolate the bad parts and try to make the good parts the default. And sometimes that comes with like creating a small little island where it's actually isolated. The preferred way of going about it is the isolated way. But then there's strategies to work towards moving that around and making that the default and isolating the bad parts. So going from one to the other. And I think these are kind of the patterns or topics that I'd like to bring some awareness to and to try to provide some strategies to working with, because I just see us making these mistakes again and again. So this is my attempt of going about it. I think a measurement of this is a great way of going about it. I'm not sure how to actually measure this, because it's very difficult. It's very it's not very easy to point to this is technical depth and this is not technical depth, and like the border between the two can be very gray area.
Just wanted to point out that we do have a Tableau dashboard related to technical debt. I think this is for CustomersDot. I haven't checked in a while, actually. This was moved from Periscope to Tableau now. But yeah, it may not be the best way to measure this. But we do have something there. It just tracks maintenance issues, maintenance or certain types of maintenance issues. I don't remember exactly, and I made it, but it was like a year ago or more anyway. So I don't remember exactly, but certain types of maintenance issues are measured here that are, sort of technical debt. And this is just what happens with those issues over time, right? How many are closed? How many are still open? Do we create more issues over time? And then, we have the open versus closed there. I know, I don't know, we can change the time range maybe to, let me see, 2 more years. I think we're doing well compared to years ago, but I don't know. But anyway, you can see there that, for example, from April, it seems like we have let me see, more closed technical debt, I believe. Yeah, there's a spike. I think over time it has been increasing, but then there are certain points there where we got much better. And I think in recent times we do close a lot more.
This is super interesting. So this is based off of issues, but how is this issues that are labeled technical debt? Because I believe that label was actually removed, right?
It was removed and it was replaced with the maintenance type. However, not all of the maintenance type are technical debt. So if I remember correctly, I've chosen a few of the maintenance type that without doubt or likely they're actually technical debt. For example, maintenance refactor. That being one of them that I'm sure is included here. I don't remember exactly which ones, and unfortunately I can't edit this, I think, anymore. So I can't see the SQL underneath. But yeah, it's basically certain types of maintenance issues.
Got it. Super interesting. I'm wondering if we could do an even, well, you're just saying that you can't edit it, but maybe we could do, would be nice to have a back-end front-end filter on this, just to see where some of this mainly lies.
Agreed. Yeah, I think, well, I guess you can probably find out looking at the issues, especially if you just want to check what is the current, technical debt. I think if we want to add this here, we may need to create an issue with the data team. Annoyingly, we can't. I'm not able to create anything in the Tableau anymore. They just don't give us license. Back in the day, it was easier because I could just create it myself. Like this dashboard was ported. But I think we may be able to create an issue here for the data team in the tracker and ask for that. I think it's a good idea to differentiate between the two.
Michael, going back to the situation you described with there being, a dozen different ways of purchasing, like having a purchase page or purchase component. I wonder if it's useful to understand how we get into that situation. Like, is it just a situation where it's easier to create something new rather than trying to retrofit an existing component? Is it just a symptom of going so fast that that it's easier to create something new? Is it the requirements that are handed down such that it's not flexible enough to fit into the existing code that we have, things like that? I wonder if that would help understand or like cut down on that particular problem.
Yeah, I think learning about how we get into this issue is a great point. I do have a couple of hunches, and this is also why I've stressed the minimal valuable change. Is that I think we have a tendency to push technical debt to the side in order to try to complete our features as fast as possible, especially under the minimal viable change that we had before. So this is also, I guess, an attempt to try to use this new approach to incorporate it into when we create epics and not think of it as a separate thing that needs to handle. That is a theory and it is a hunch. It's probably backed by a couple of examples that I listed in the issue, but yeah, definitely interesting to dive into that. I'm wondering whether a questionnaire or like how we could gather that data somehow. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think anecdotally, people just bringing it to this meeting is an option, but we just don't have enough numbers here. I think a survey could be useful, depending on, how much engagement we get. But I think that's probably the easiest way and probably a good way to start. It's easy to create a poll or even a Google form where we can gather some of this information.
I think we do it like every year without any effect, unfortunately. Do we have a technical debt? Yeah, we do. How many technical debt we have? Like a lot. Do we need to deal with it? Yes, definitely. Poll is done.
Well,
But,
I think Tyler's point was like, how can we learn about like how this emerged? Like, how did we end up with these bad patterns? Is it, I guess the question is it lack of knowledge or is it lack of resources or lack of time, like resources, time being one of them, or lack of, I don't know, something third.
I think another one to throw in there is requirements, because I think sometimes we have maybe requirements that that are unique, maybe a unique situation that allows us maybe not to easily fit into the existing code, or it would require re-architecting what we've already done to better fit, and maybe we don't have time for that. So it could be a combination of things. But I agree, really, it could be that we have to be careful about how we would word the survey to where it's like revealing useful information rather than just venting about the situation.
yeah, survey could
Definitely.
be like survey could be a starting point, but it's when it comes to dealing with the tech debt, I think this process is similar to optimization. So it's like a continuous process, and if you want to see its health, you need numbers when you follow the path. So you need to see the trends and so on. And as far as I know, GitLab doesn't provide such a feature out of the box. And since our application is like private, we can't use any tool that is available on the market right now. So that should be something like that we can use by its license, like open source tool, or we have to craft that script or whatever by our own.
I think not just the numbers, but the business impact may be more important here, because without a clear, business impact, then this won't get prioritized. We need to make sure that, and I think we improve a lot here, especially since we've got that presentation that I posted there since that happened, I feel like we did prioritize a lot of technical debt, and I think those graphs, also reflect that we haven't done, for example, in 2022 and before that, right? So I think I saw some improvements there. We need to make sure that the business knows the value of this technical debt. Why I'm saying this is that we can say we have 2,000 technical debt issues right now. That's a lot. We need to tackle them, but that's not good enough for us to prioritize those 2,000 technical debt issues. We need to come up with a plan, right? And I think to this point, I don't know. I think some of you may have joined the all hands today. Europe time anyway. I think there's another one later with the CTO. But one of the things that Sabrina mentioned was having technical roadmaps, which are separate from the product roadmaps, right? And I think I'm very curious how that's going to work, but that could be one way we can use to push for this technical debt. For us in platform, for example, both the product and the technical roadmap is practically the same anyway, because we prioritize a lot of technical debt and a lot of technical initiatives. But I don't think that's going to be the same for the rest of the fulfillment groups, which may have to think about this. Let's see what the next steps are. I think that there's only 2 examples now of this technical roadmap, and I don't think it's an expansion. I think it's under Tim's team. But yeah, I think that may be something that will help here.
I think this is
But
great. Oh, sorry, Vedli.
yeah, I was going to say the technical roadmap is really good, but there is like a tricky part that if you present a business that will count like closed issues labeled with technical debt, there is no point in that argument for them. Instead, if you present them like, hey, we have our value stream of our project and we can deliver features really fast to market, that's a selling point. And we do have integration with a value stream on GitLab, so we can like see how fast we close issues or deliver features. But technical debt is better kind of thing that is underlying of a value stream, and instead of like saying how many issues labeled technical debt we closed, we should say, hey, this is how we improved our value stream. And when someone from a business comes to us and say, hey, how fast can you deliver this feature? And if we say like we can deliver this feature in like 1 day, that would be a blast.
I really love the technical roadmap, leaning in on that. I think that's super interesting, and this is also something I've been pushing for in subscription management. And hopefully, I think like this has also already trickled down into separate groups in fulfillment. Would be really interesting to like kind of push it together to like set fulfillment wide goals. So we're all working towards and participating in delivering on the technical roadmap as such. Another thing that, thanks for sharing that that data set. I actually had forgotten about that. That's super relevant. Definitely something I will dive into. In seeing that, I realized that, like, of course, we have a lot of awareness around technical depth in the different groups, and that kind of alludes to it not being a factor of lack of knowledge, but more of other factors or other reasons behind it. Just wanted to mention that.
Well, I know we're over time now, but I think this will be an ongoing conversation. Thanks, Michael, for bringing this up. And we'll bring it up again in a future discussion, I'm sure. Thanks everybody for joining.
Yeah, thank you.